Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and this video where I'm going to go through every single lineup for all 20 Premier League teams right before the start of this Fantasy Premier League season. And you can check out all of these starting lineups in my FPL guide, which you can see either in the description down below, or you can use the QR code above my head right here on the video if you want to check out the guide for yourself. But I'm going to go through basically the starting lineups in this guide, but there are a lot of other things to check out here if you want to go to the site and look at it. If you can see the contents here, there's a lot of potential FPL squads which were last updated about a little over a week ago, so I need to update these right before the deadline. I'm going to do that. That's probably my next task after this video, to update these squads, to have them fully updated right before the start of the season. So I have the template squad, the most commonly picked players, differential squad, which is essentially the opposite, where you don't pick anyone from the template squad, some more rarely owned players. You have the early chips squad, where you're going for a bench boosting game week 1, triple captain game week 2, free hit game week 3, and wildcard game week 4 if you want to use your chips all at once, basically, like in the first 4 game weeks. Then we have the premium squad, meaning we have Haaland, Fernandes, and Gabriel, which is possible, but not the best maybe, but it is possible. It is a surprisingly good squad. And then it's finally the whole season squad, aka the zombie team, where the goal is to have the same squad from game week 1 through game week 38 without a single change, without any transfers, no chips used, no nothing, basically. That's also a fun exercise, and I have all the best zombie teams from seasons past, so you can compare and see how usually the best value players are in FPL, basically. Also have how you can use your chips, both for the first half of the season, game week 1 through game week 19, with my preferred chip strategy, which I've talked about in a different video, and I'm also going to go into in my team selection video on Friday. And then we also have the second half of the season, how you can use your chips there, because that is much easier usually, because you have just a single, a couple set game weeks where there are blanks and doubles where you need to use your chips, and that's not going to be the case in the first half of the season. We also have new player reviews. We are waiting for a couple more from Kevin before the deadline as well, with some new players that are coming into the starting lineups. And speaking of the starting lineups, that's what we're also going to look at. You can also see the set piece takers for all 20 teams in this guide as well. But for this video, we're going to focus on the starting lineups, so let's go straight to that section. And before we go into the starting lineups, we need to do some groundwork or some rules basically for what this is. So these are not game week 1 lineups. These are predicted starting 11s for the entire season, basically. So yeah, as you'll see with the number 2 here, numbers on the kits are not they're not their actual squad numbers. They're not a rating or anything like that. They are actually, the numbers on the kits represent projected Premier League starts from 0 to 38. So 0 starts is the least amount of starts a player can have. 38 starts is the most amount of starts a player can have, basically. So yeah, you're going to see a number from 0 to 38, which sort of acts as a nailed onness indicator, looking at how nailed are these players. Some players are nailed, some players are not that nailed. I have a number from 0 to 38 to sort of give you a bit of a clue on how nailed each player is, basically. And yeah, these lineups will be updated all the way up until the game week 1 deadline. When that arrives, I am going to stop because it is just too much work after the preseason, basically. This is a preseason guide after all. And finally, any tips or corrections are welcome. If you have, especially if you have your favorite team amongst these Premier League teams, which sadly is not the case for me with West Ham anymore. But if, for example, I go through Coventry and you're a Coventry fan and I'm just missing something or doing something wrong with the lineup, please tell me either in the comment section down here in YouTube, or potentially go to X or Twitter as it was used to be called, and you can tweet me or post to me at the FPL Scope if you find any errors or anything you think should change in these starting lineups. So yeah, you can also see here, you have the number on the shirt, which I already talked about, is the projected Premier League starts. And then you have other indicators, if a player is injured from the start of the season, as we'll see with Arsenal immediately with Saliba, they have an injury marker. If they are a fitness doubt after either the World Cup, coming back late from that, or if they are a doubt for game week 1, I'm going to have that traditional yellow, basically, marker there for those players. And also, it says tap lineup to enlarge. If you click the lineup, you get a bigger picture, so it's easier to see if you are struggling, basically. But we'll get to all of that in due time, which is basically right now with Arsenal first. So let's go to Arsenal. This is the starting lineup, and then also this is the main starting 11, the players that I think will start by the end of the season. This will be the players that have played the most matches for, or had the most starts for Arsenal, basically. Right below it is a transfer tab, basically, which you can open up and see which have been like the notable transfers in and notable transfers out. I don't have like Karl Hein, for example, like the 4th goalkeeper for Arsenal out. Like I haven't listed him because it just basically flutters or like clutters up the screen a little bit. So it's just like the main transfers basically, and all the transfers in, you have the price in FPL listed next to them as well to make it pretty easy to see who's come in and who's gone out basically. But yeah, you can also close that. Under here as well, you also have starting 11 contenders, the 3 players that are going to get the most starts outside of the starting 11. You can see here with Arsenal, it's Gyökeres, Lewis Kelly, and Konsa in my estimation. And you have other potential starters as well, like Eze, Mosquera, Hincapié, and Zubimendi. You could see them winning a place in the team. Zubimendi is the least likely of them because you imagine Bruno Guimaraes, Rice, and Ødegaard will play there in midfield. And even if one of those guys drop out or get injured, it's probably Lewis Kelly who is ahead of Zubimendi in line, in my opinion at least, judging on what happened last season basically. Well, you also have this last season 11 nailed on-ness. This is like a scale from last season basically. How often did the starting 11 play out of the 38 matches, like on average? So just like adding up all the starting 11 players put together and divided by 11, and then you get the number of starts last season on average among the most commonly picked players from last season basically. Finally, we have the additional notes where I just like write some additional notes, but that's what I'm going to go through verbally in this video, so I'm not going to go through too much of that right now. So let's instead go into the Arsenal lineup. As I said, you can click to enlarge it. You see like it's a little bit bigger, at least on phone as well. It is something that helps a little bit if you are struggling to see. But yeah, let's start with Arsenal lineup. First and foremost, the injuries is the main thing here. Saliba and Timber are injured, and now Ezri Konsa is practically transferred to Arsenal. Unless he fails his medical or something crazy happens, Ezri Konsa is going to be an Arsenal player, and he's going to be the starting centre-back, I think, with Saliba out with injury, basically. And that leaves the right-back spot open with Timber out for the first few games of the season. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be Ben White or if it's going to be Mosquera, but for Game Week 1, it's going to be Mosquera as centre-back and Ben White at right back. But for Game Week 2, for example, when they play Aston Villa, incidentally, Konsa could easily get his debut against his former team already as a centre-back. And who plays right back out of Mosquera and Ben White? I don't really know. So Gabriel and Calafiori actually are more secure players. Calafiori, I have him with 28 projected starts, which is quite a lot, but it seems like he is the preferred candidate over Hincapié, basically. And I think he seems pretty nailed so far this preseason. Like earlier in the preseason, I had some doubts about the left-hand side here. They were at a smaller number, but both Calafiori and Jolis have looked really good in preseason. So their numbers have been bumped up, and I have like pretty good faith in both of those guys playing most games this season. Arsenal, however, have been in the market for another winger potentially, but after Jolis has looked so good in preseason, that has sort of like eased out a little bit. Like you don't see as many links to attackers anymore for Arsenal, and now they instead prioritize getting Konsa for these positions with the injuries and stuff. So yeah, feel pretty good about both Calafiori and Jolis being starting lineup players, especially from the start of the season, where a lot of managers in FPL have picked them, so they are really good players. The rest of the team, pretty nailed, apart from the striker position, where it is between Havertz and Gyökeres, basically, and sometimes Marino, I guess, but it looks like Havertz is at least going to be preferred in the tougher matches, and Gyökeres might play more in the easier matches. We'll see how that pans out, but yeah, Havertz and Gyökeres are sort of 50-50-ish, the striker position, with the slight edge to Havertz, in my opinion. But yeah, Gyökeres is one of the main guys, one of the main contenders, as you saw before we went into the lineup, basically. So yeah, that is the Arsenal team. Let's move on to Aston Villa. Here we also have a couple of contenders in Garnacho, Mings, and Rigeri. Rigeri, who's the new left back, who can challenge Maatsen for that left back spot. That is a bit of a contentious place. Of course, we just mentioned Konsa. He's going to be leaving Aston Villa. I've projected that already in the lineups. I assume that he's going to Arsenal. So for now, it's Lindelof coming in at right centre back, because both Pau Torres and Tyrone Mings are left-footed centre backs, or left-sided centre backs. So Lindelof, I think, is going to be the starter for now, at least in the first game of the season. I would imagine he starts. But yeah, they are definitely looking for a new centre-back. They do have another player actually brought in, Modou Keba Cissé? I can't remember exactly what it is, but he is a really young talent at right centre-back as well, so maybe he gets some minutes, but he is like another potential starter, but he still hasn't been priced in FPL. So yeah, imagine it's going to be Lindelof, but I think they're going to try to sign a new centre back, especially with all the money that they get from Konsa. I wouldn't be too surprised. Speaking of new signings, they have a couple new signings as well, with Wan-Bissaka now essentially joining them. Like, it's pretty much clear. Maybe by the time this video is out, or maybe by the time you watch this video, he will be part of the Aston Villa squad. They've been looking to upgrade on Cash for quite a long while. So yeah, I think Matty Cash is going to be ousted from the lineup in favor of Wan-Bissaka. Same happens also with the goalkeeper. Let's just actually go into the team instead. Zion Suzuki has been brought in to play as a goalkeeper. He was almost ready to go to PSG, but that move stranded basically, and he went to Aston Villa instead, and Emi Martinez is now on his way out. He almost went to Juventus, but that also stranded, so Juventus went for Vicario instead. Good luck with that. But yeah, so he's also new. They're also looking for a new center mid, basically. They already lost Tielemans and they lost Rodgers. They have replaced them with João Gomez and Mansambi, but Mansambi is out injured. This is like a warning sign. He should actually have like an injury marker, because he is actually going to be out for a few weeks, I think, from the start of the season. So he is definitely out from the start of the season, hence the slightly lower projected start number. So yeah, they're going to have to do something here. And who knows really who they're going to play with. The most likely thing would be just to put Buendia as the attacking mid and put Garnacho on the left. But potentially they have a youngster called George Hemmings, who's 4.5 in FPL, by the way. He could very well start the season at left wing for Aston Villa, with Mansambi out for the first few game weeks, including Hull in game week 3. So a kind of interesting pick there for 4.5 in Hemmings. He's been pretty good in preseason, so something to watch out for, basically. And Aston Villa, like I said, they sold Rodgers, they sold Tielemans, they sold now Konsa as well. They're looking to sell Emi Martinez. Like, their whole main part of the team has been sold. And the latest also rumors is Watkins might also be sold. So yeah, not looking good for Unai Emery and Aston Villa going into the Champions League this season after winning Europa League last season, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not remembering incorrectly, I guess is how you would phrase that. Yeah, Watkins, still have him starting in case he stays. Of course, they have that, was it Brian Maggio guy who looked good in the last preseason game? He sort of reminded people of Lukaku. But Watkins for now is the preferred starter. They also have Tammy Abraham who can play there as well, of course. So yeah, they're looking for more midfield depth. I think they're going to have a new midfielder here at some point. Amadou Onana is out injured for a long while as well. João Gomez is out injured from the start of the season. Mansambi is injured. So many players are getting sold. Aston Villa are probably going to be a bit of an easy target at the start of the season, more so than what we expect. So yeah, that game week 2 fixture between Arsenal and Aston Villa doesn't look quite as difficult for Arsenal anymore, especially with them buying Konsa now as well. So yeah, interesting all around with Aston Villa this season. Moving on to the next team, which is going to be Bournemouth, or Bournemouth as they're called more commonly. They have also a couple of nice contenders to start, and one of them is the most notable. It's Krupi Jr., who is a contender to start, and that's because he is out injured. He's not going to play too many matches this season, so he's not actually going to be in the starting lineup. But once he is fit, you expect him to fully take over for Kluivert here in the starting lineup and play as the attacking mid, and sometimes moving up as the striker next to Evan Nilsson. Under Marco Rose's 4-2-2-2 system, basically, with 2 strikers. So that could happen. They also have Alvaro Rodriguez, who could play either next to Evan Nilsson or instead of Evan Nilsson. So they have some options up front, but they're still looking for some attacking options, I think, as well. For the rest of the team, of course, the backline has been updated a little more, even after last season when they changed almost their entire backline. They've done even more changes. James Hill came in quite like halfway through last season. And was really, really good, helped them really. But now they bought Antonio Silva, like a former wonder kid at centre-back who could be really, really good there, and Juan Luis Sanchez as well at right-back. He seems ready to take over that spot from Julian Araujo, who's out injured from the start of the season. So yeah, some interesting players for Bournemouth and some new players in the backline as well. Midfield, we know already, Adams and Scott. Scott was really good last season. Looking to continue from that this season as well. And Ryan is another player that is really interesting for 6.5. I think he's going to be a really good pick at some point this season, even though the starting fixtures for Bournemouth aren't the best. But yeah, that's an interesting player as well. So yeah, pretty nice team for Bournemouth. They're still looking for some depth, I think. They are in Europe, so they need some extra spaces to fill, basically. In those other matches. But yeah, they have Christie in midfield as well. They have Diakite who can play centre-back. They have... I can't remember his name, the long Serbian sounding name as a centre back option as well. So they do have some options across the board, basically, Bournemouth. Moving on to Brentford, they have basically kept most of the same players that they've had before. You can see they have some nice contenders there as well, and also a pretty high last season nailed on-ness number as well. Like, they didn't really rotate too much last season. It was pretty easy to see who was going to start, but this season is a bit different. The midfield especially is very hard to predict. Is it going to be Damsgaard or is it going to be Jensen, one of the two Danish guys, as the attacking mid? Jensen could also play here in center mid. Janelt could play there, of course. He's the one I have listed next to Sangare, who's the new signing. And also you have Yarmolyuk, that was difficult to say, who also can play midfield and could easily be the one to play instead of Janelt as well. So the midfield is very stacked. Like, they have a lot of options here. But for me, Sangare is like a pretty dead certainty here. Janelt played a lot of matches after he came back from injury last season, and Damsgaard I think is just better than Jensen, so I think he should start. But Jensen has been playing more in preseason, so from the start of the season, I actually think Mathias Jensen, who has a brilliant first name, of course, is going to be the starter. But Damsgaard I think is just too good to leave out, so yeah. On the wings, it's easier. Kevin Schade and Dango Ouattara are the preferred starters still, even though Jadon Anthony has joined to give them more depth on the wings. They are the two preferred starters there. When it comes to the defense, Kelleher, of course, in goal. Collins, the captain, is starting. Coyote is going to play every match. Left back, they're looking for new left backs, which could potentially move Lewis Potter further up as well to play on the wings and give them even more wing cover with Jadon Anthony also. But yeah, might get a new left back. I think they have been linked with El Hadji Malik Diouf, who would be a good signing, of course. They have some other options as well, but that is potentially the place they're going to try to strengthen, because Lewis Potter is sort of like a former winger turned into a left back. He's been good in that role, was in that role last season, but I think he could be like not moved on, but like I think he could be ousted from the lineup with a new left back signing potentially before the end of the window, which is after Game Week 2, like right after Game Week 2, I think it is. In central back or central defense as well, Van den Berg is out injured for a couple months, I think, which means that he has a pretty low number. He's going to eventually be the starting center back, but Christopher Ayer, who's going to come in from Norway, the Norwegian center back, he's going to start the season, and he is a really good DEFCON type of defender for 4.5 to start the season, so that is like a pretty nice guy to start with this season, of course, as well. So yeah, that is Brentford. Igor Thiago up front is going to play a lot of matches. Let's see if he gets a lot of goals. Some people have said that he is probably not going to score 10 goals this season after scoring like 20 something last season, but we'll see. I think he's going to end up in like 15, 16 type of range. Not quite as good as last season, but he's still going to be a good striker in the Premier League. I think he is. Has proven that he is so far. But yeah. Anyways, let's move on to Brighton and Hove Albion, or Brighton as they're more commonly known. The most interesting thing with Brighton, I think, right now is the winger situation, because both Kaoru Mitoma and Yankuba Minte are out injured from the start of the season. That led to Diego Gomez and De Kuiper coming in, Maxime De Kuiper coming in as the wingers. But Gomez had to hobble off in their last preseason game. So there is some uncertainty, but I think he has traveled to Tromsø to play the Europa League game now on Thursday. As I'm sending out this video on Thursday, you should probably know if Gomez is going to be ready or not to play in the weekend, because he's a really interesting option for 5.0. The other new interesting thing about Brighton is their new striker, which is going to be Promise David, the brother of Jonathan David, if I'm not mistaken, from Canada. He is a really good penalty taker, which means that Gross might be off penalties. It also means that Jorginho Rutter, who was listed as a striker before, is not going to play there predominantly. And Jorginho Rutter was someone that would like to roam further back, which opened up things for Hinchelwood. So I think with the new striker, he sort of lessens the impact of both Hinchelwood and Gross in the starting lineup, because he takes penalties away from Gross potentially. And that's what I have listed for now in the set piece taking list. Could still be Gross, but I think David will take them as a striker. They usually want your strikers to be in good form and have good confidence that you get from scoring penalties. So yeah, I think he sort of ruins the appeal of some of these players, but he's going to be 6.0 striker most likely in FPL. So yeah, that's a pretty good price. He could be a good option eventually this season. Brighton also, they are looking to sell Carlos Baleba, who is not in the starting lineup anyway, but he would be a really massive contender to play rather than Ayari, but now he is leaving for Man United. So I think Brighton are going to look to buy a new central midfielder probably. So yeah, that's probably what they're going to look for in the transfer market basically. Centre back, they have a lot of options. Pascal Stauk and Luka Vuskovic are the preferred pair here, of course, but they also have Boskagli and they also have Lewis Dunk, who's been here for such a long time. They could also play in these centre-back roles. I think actually Vuskovic should have a slightly higher number than the 28 that he has, and Stark is like probably all right with 27, but I think these two guys will be the preferred centre-back pairing this season. Maybe not from the start of the season though. That's why there's some like question marks who's going to start the season. They have Dunk, who's more senior member of the squad, who could start the season. Buskagli has also played quite a lot in preseason, so who knows. Right back, Mats Wiefer. They also added Costinha in the transfer market. I think Wiefer is going to keep his place there, 27 starts. And Kadioglu at left back, 27 starts as well, with Maxim de Kuiper, who is going to start the season on the wing, could rival Kadioglu for starts at left back eventually this season as well. So yeah, that is Brighton. Moving on to Chelsea, another team like Brighton who typically have a lot of players, and this summer is or this season is no different for Chelsea. They have a lot of players, a lot of options. 9 transfers in, as you can see here, just to look at the transfer section here. They removed a couple players, like pretty marquee players, I guess, as well. Mark Cucurella, that's probably why I had marquee as the word that I thought of. Andre Santos, Tariq George, Garnacho, of course, and Chalobah have all left, but they've also brought in Morgan Rogers, Lacroix, Giovanni Quenda, who's a really good, exciting youngster, Palestra, who was like a really good fullback last season in the Serie A, Valentin Barco, Danny Welbeck. This is where it sort of goes off the rails a little bit. Jordan Henderson, Emmanuel Megha, and also Pep Chavaria, who is someone that could play left wing back as well. Like, they have a lot of options, as you'll see with the starting lineup. So this is the preferred option for Xabi Alonso. I think that's what he has turned into in the preseason, going with 3 at the back like he did at Leverkusen, with 2 wide fullbacks in Reece James and Palestra for me. But Reece James could easily play in midfield. Enzo Fernandez is a bit of an uncertainty. He might be sold, and he's not the most popular guy in England right now, so we'll see with him. Reece James can also, of course, not only play in midfield, he can also play right centre-back, so he can fill in a lot of gaps. But from the start of the season, with Fofana out suspended for the first 2 game weeks, I think Reece James might play right centre-back, and then Palestra could play right wing-back. They could have Hato at left wing-back. They can play Chavaria there, they can play Valentin Barco there. Like, they have a lot of options. Colwell back from injury, he's also interesting. Lacroix, the marquee signing in defense, he's going to play most matches for Chelsea. And Caicedo, of course, also a secure starter. Same with Palmer and Rogers. Like, they are just like such a nice fit in this formation behind Joao Pedro, who's also going to start a lot of matches, despite Chelsea having like 8 strikers that can play. But Joao Pedro is the clear number 1 option there, with 31 starts projected for me this season. Also interesting though, they have Estevao, who's a really nice young player. You would want to see him play a lot of matches, but he is the best as a right winger. He could play as the attacking mid sort of position, but Rogers and Palmer seem kind of nailed. So for Estevao to play more minutes, I think they would have to play 4 at the back and play with 3 attacking players behind Joao Pedro, with Estevao on the right wing. That could be the option. Also, Pedro Neto has actually played quite a lot in preseason. It seems like he is like fit pretty well to play in these wingback roles. He could also play right wingback or left wingback for the system that Xabi Alonso plays. So he could also be a nice option. But I think Palestra can play both on the left and on the right, which is where he predominantly plays usually. He's going to have a lot of starts this season. He's priced at 5.5 for a reason this season, because he is really interesting and pretty attacking fullback as well, or wingback, I should say. Final thing with Chelsea is that Robert Sanchez is still in goal. They have been linked with Diogo Costa, so maybe they go that route. But yeah, Sanchez, if he starts still for 5.0, he's a decent option for Chelsea. So yeah, someone to consider there. Moving on to Coventry, newly promoted team, of course, and with some newly acquired players. They have brought back Gustavo Hammer, of course, who can play attacking mid. But I have Rodoni for now because he was also pretty good in the championship last season. Probably should have slightly lower projected starts than 31 because of Hammer coming in. But yeah, they also have new signing Irenki, who's an interesting DEFCON type of guy in midfield. Chuana as well at right wing, also a new player, came from... I keep like mixing up the Burnley and the Wolves guy. I can't remember exactly who he joined from, but yeah. Awani up front, new striker from Nottingham Forest. I think he ousts Haji Wright from the lineup. They also have a new Sheriff in town, I guess, a young striker called Sheriff, who could also play up front eventually. He's a bit of a youngster, so I don't have him in the starting lineup for now. Defense, Rushworth has come in as the goalkeeper, Wildsmith as some people call him, Thomas and Amenda as the centre-backs. They could buy a new centre-back. Amenda is new, of course, since last season. Thomas has stayed, and Kitching has gone out of the starting lineup. Thomas is probably going to play, but if they get a new center back, who knows? I think maybe Amanda should have, like, I should probably change these numbers to be 31 here and 28 here, because Thomas feels like slightly less nailed than Amanda, maybe. I don't know. Van Dijk is more nailed, 32 matches, and Da Silva might get also, like, removed from the lineup if Coventry buy a new left back, which they could go for. Like, they're looking for more center back or center mid options, I should say, and left back options as well is like the main thing Coventry are looking for now that they've secured the striker position up with Awani and Sheriff up there. So yeah, that is Coventry. Of course, they have Onyeka, who has a lot of Premier League experience. He can play midfield as well, but Grimes was such an important player last season that he stays in the lineup, and Urenki is also a really good, highly touted signing, who was actually like someone that could have gone to Brighton to replace Baleba, but Coventry got him instead. Mason Clark, of course, can also play on the left, putting Gustavo Hammer in midfield here. Could happen. He's a good winger, so could look out for him as a potential starter as well for Coventry. Moving on to Crystal Palace. This is the next lineup I'm going to talk about, of course. The main thing with Crystal Palace is the centre-backs, because they have lost, since the start of last season, both Mark Gahey and Maxence Lacroix, and they have basically replaced them with people from within. JD Convo, who they brought in before the start of the last season, really good young promising youngster with really good DEFCON numbers, but he had some like really bad mistakes last season. But I think, like, from all accounts, he's taken a couple steps forward this season and looks set to start next to Chris Richards, who's now the senior member of the centre backs here now for Palace. 32 starts for him. And Chadi Riyad, who's been with Palace for like the last 2 seasons, but he's just been injured all the time. He came for free from Betis. He was really good in La Liga as well, so I think he's going to start the season there. But they are looking for a new centre-back, of course, and they are pretty heavily linked with Axel Disasi now, who was really good for West Ham last season. I think he could be a good signing for them. Who he knocks out of the lineup? Probably Chadi Riyad, but maybe Convo. I think it's going to be Chadi Riyad, but we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Munoz, he's been linked away to several teams. Everton have been interested. Nottingham Forest, of course, with Glasner as their new manager, has been interested. Palace have also brought in Oscar Mingueza, who could play right wing back. That's his primary position. Or he can play all across the back line and even left wing back Mingueza. So he's a really nice guy to play in several positions as they go into the Europa League this season, Crystal Palace. But they've also brought in Kalaili, I guess, from Union Saint-Gilloise, who is also a really nice young promising right wing back player who could also take over from Munoz, who came back late from the World Cup, and that's why he didn't play in the last preseason game. But if Munoz stays, of course, he is a good option, but Kalaili, especially if he gets the starting job here for 5.0 in the system that Palace play, he could be a really good signing. Mingueza for 4.5, if he starts, he can be an even better option, potentially on some set pieces as well. Probably not, because they have some good set piece takers here, but yeah, Mingueza is also a nice option if he plays. Wharton, he's been linked away all the time, of course, because he's a really highly coveted player, but assuming he stays with Palace, he is a certain starter. The other centre mid is slightly less certain with Kamada, 24 starts I have him projected with. Chaik Doucouré has been injured for quite a while now. He could come back into the lineup if he looks good, but Kamada is there for now. Mitchell left wing back, pretty easy there, even though they did just sign a new left wing back, but that's a bit of a youngster instead. They also have Borna Sosa, of course, who can play there, but Mitchell is the preferred candidate by far. Sarr also really preferred Jeremy Pino next to him. Dwight McNeil could play, of course, and then Mateta up front with Strand Larsen, who's probably going to start the season because Mateta was a bit late coming back, of course, from the World Cup and stuff. So Strand Larsen's probably going to start the season at striker, but Mateta's going to be the main striker, assuming he stays with the club as well. So yeah, that is Crystal Palace. For new signings, I think it's like centre mid and centre back, which I already talked about for Palace, potentially bringing in new players in those positions. Everton, also a bit of an interesting window, I guess. They have brought in Hayden Hackney and Christian Nørgaard in centre mid positions, which is kind of interesting. Merlin Rural has been made permanent, same with Tariq George. They came after being on loan last season. Now they are permanent signings. And speaking of Merlin Rural, actually, he's been playing at right back in preseason, but Everton are really in the lookout for a new right back. So I wouldn't expect him to start there for the rest of the season, but 23 starts for now. I can't really guess who's going to be the starter here. I can only pick players that are essentially either they are in the squad already or they have been like, here we go, and Ornstein confirmed signings. Yeah, Rural, right back for now. Right wing as well, also, or like wing positions, and Jai can play both left wing and right wing. It's a bit of a tricky one. Like, I don't really know who's gonna play here. Maybe it's Tariq George on the left and Njai on the right. Maybe it is Brennan Johnson who gets the chance on the right, but I've gone with Tyler Dibling, who's looked pretty good in preseason and was brought in for a lot of money like a couple seasons back as well from Southampton when they went down. Up front, Tierno Barry has been really good in preseason. He is the preferred striker over Beto, but that's going to be a bit of a rotation thing where Barry plays like 60 or 70 minutes and Beto comes in to play the few final minutes, I guess, of the game. Midfield is also a really strong point for Everton. Garner is now injured for the start of the season, so he's not going to start immediately, but for the course of the season, I think he's going to be the starter here. Hayden Hackney also has been fantastic in the championship, one of the best players in the championship for the last few seasons. So I also think he's going to be in the lineup, but of course, Christian Nergar could easily be a midfielder here. They also have Harrison Armstrong. They also have Timo Irogbunam, who might be sold now because they have so many midfield options. Dewsbury Hall, of course, is going to play as the attacking mid. That's why he's 6.5 in FPL. And Njai, of course, also a really good option there. In defense, Branthwaite, assuming he stays injury-free, which is not going to be the case usually. Tarkovsky, who plays every game. Pickford, of course, and Mikolenko. Even though Adam Asnu, who is listed at 4.0 in FPL, has been pretty good in preseason, and some Everton fans at least have been like not too fussed about Mikolenko for the past few seasons, and they might want to have him replaced. So Asno, if he starts eventually, he's a former Bayern talent who came from Bayern Munich to Everton. That could be a really nice option eventually, but for the start of the season and probably for the entirety of the season, Mikolenko would be at left back for Everton. Moving on to Fulham. Also, a lot of changes, as we have seen with other teams as well. They have a new manager in Alvaro Arbeloa. Out has Marco Silva gone as manager. He's left for Benfica after so many years being the Fulham manager. And Arbeloa brings in new ideas, a more attacking style, and some interesting lineup changes. The defense is pretty similar as before. Bernd Leno as the goalkeeper. I think Anthony Robinson is going to win the left back spot now with Arbeloa's tactics. I think Robinson fits better than Sessegnon, but they're both pretty good attacking wingers, or fullbacks, I should say. But Anthony Robinson could be a really good option for 4.5. His DEFCON numbers aren't like, they're pretty good as well. And of course, he is potentially on penalties if Gonzalo Garcia and stuff doesn't play. The new striker is the most commonly expected penalty taker, but Anthony Robinson has taken some penalties before and could take them again. Bassi and Anderson, of course. Anderson is out suspended for game week 1, but Isak Cuenca is going to come in there and play there. Is it Isak or is it something else? Am I mixing it up with the former Barcelona winger? I don't know. Cuenca, at least, is going to play centre back next to Bassi probably in game week 1. Castagna is actually linked away a little bit. Fulham are looking for a new right back potentially. They have Kenny Tete and Castagna sort of fighting for that right back spot, but they might upgrade that position eventually. But Castagna is, of course, a very serviceable right back who could be on his way as well to a different Premier League team, actually. It will be placed in midfield. Sanderberg, of course, and Shea Charles. That's a pretty easy midfield to pick. I think Josh King could play some minutes as well, but probably more in these attacking positions. We'll see depending on how they line up. Oscar Bob is basically the only right winger they have left after Harry Wilson left, so he's going to play a lot of matches. Gonzalo Garcia is their main striker. And Kevin, for now, is the preferred left-wing candidate. I think, is it Oscar Palacios, the new Real Madrid signing? He was really good for Real Madrid Castilla, scoring a lot of goals as like an attacking player there. So he could easily be there to link up with his former teammate and current teammate in Gonzalo Garcia. So Kevin is like tentatively the starter, but Palacios could easily be the starter here. Josh King could also play a lot of minutes. I think he was so good or like showed a lot of promise last season, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see him starting either for Fulham, basically. Moving on to Hull, of course, another promoted team who have signed a lot of players and continue to sign a lot of players. Solakis is new in goal. He's going to play every match, basically. Giles is still playing there at left back, even though they brought in Matt Target. I think Giles is going to be preferred. Mendy, it's not Napoli's Mendy, it's Noble Mendy. It's not the same defensive mid that Leicester had before. It is a centre back who's really highly touted. I think Hull paid a lot of money for him. He's out injured though, but he's going to be the main. No, he's not out injured. It's actually Hughes. I missed that in the graphic. The injury marker should be for Hughes, not for Mendy. I need to change that immediately. Mendy's going to start the season. Hughes is going to be out, but they of course have John Egan ready to step in, and Semi Ajayi, who could also play as a centre back. Coyle on right back, 23 starts because he is most likely going to be replaced. It seems like Hull are going to go for a new signing a right back. So yeah, Coyle is probably going to be out of the lineup. Slater, who is a lot of people's 4.5 pick in midfield, he is still tentatively in the starting lineup, but this could easily be Dahl or someone else coming into midfield. They've signed a lot of midfield players. Zambrano, for example. Crooks has played there before, but Slater is slightly preferred over them. Morita, who is also out injured. He is like the main midfield player, though. He's been really good in preseason, came from Sporting, is pretty highly touted, so I think he's going to play there. Gelhardt as the attacking mid for now, could also be Dahl playing here. Balumi comes back after not playing much last season because he was out injured, but he's a really vital player for Hull and was really vital at the end of the season to secure promotion. He's going to be a huge boost for them since last season. Elliot Stroud, who is traditionally a left back sometimes, can play left back as well, of course. He is someone that I think is going to play quite a few matches, not entirely now, but he's going to play a lot of matches and could potentially be on penalties as well. If not McBurney, he could take them, of course, as well. He's probably the main target as the penalty taker. Gelhardt as well could take penalties, but yeah. So yeah, that is Hull. I need to change the thing before the video comes out. So yeah, if you go see the guide, this will have been changed. Hughes will have the injury marker, not Mendy. Yeah. Moving on to the next team. Another newly promoted team in Ipswich. Sherpen is a new goalkeeper in goal. He's going to start. Leif Davis, they are looking potentially for a new left back, but Leif Davis has been a pretty secure player for them. Diop and O'Shea, slightly preferred over Greaves. Abdul Ouattara, who I think is going to be the right back now. Ben Johnson is moving on to Stoke, it seems like, so he is the most commonly used right back, with Gary O'Neill being reunited with him. Same as Enciso also being reunited after being with Gary O'Neill at Strasbourg. Sasa Lukic and Florentino Luis, I think is going to be the preferred midfield pair here. Of course, Matusiwa could also play in midfield. Dyson Maeda at left wing, 29 starts. I think he's going to be pretty good. And Fatawu at right wing is also pretty good. They have a lot of options here, actually. Sinderval Egeli has been playing a lot in both attacking mid and the winger positions. He can play there, of course. They also have Jack Clark, who can play in these attacking positions. And they also have Philogene, of course, who could leave. That's the most likely scenario now. But if he stays, he could easily be a starter in this team. Up front, Emerson, the new signing. He is the one that I'm putting faith in as the starter for Ipswich for 5.5 in FPL. So, yeah, that is Ipswich. Marcelino Nunes as well. Someone that can play in all three attacking or all three center mid positions. He's also going to get some minutes for Ipswich, who have made a lot of signings. 12 signings in total, actually. I can see them all here. A lot of players that are like more like long-term view, I guess, as well. Leeds, very interesting team, I think. They have just strengthened since last season, looking into the team. First and foremost, Muharemovic, who has been brought in for quite a lot of money as a left centre-back here in this three at-the-back system. He has really good DEFCON numbers. He's a really good attacking centre-back as well in terms of set pieces. Scored a bicycle kick in preseason, so he's getting a lot of preseason hype for 5.0. He's a really good option. Joe Rodon signed, or Joe Sala, as the manager called him, signed a new contract now. He's going to be pretty nailed, and Bijol, I think, is going to have the last spot in defense. But Nico Elvedi has also come in to be another guy to point them towards a three at-the-back system, which they really did well with last season after changing tactics midway through. Trafford has been brought in goal as well, another huge upgrade. So Trafford is new, Muharemovic is new, and Wilson is new. They're also looking to potentially sign Igor Paixão here, who can play rather than Aronson, who's the least likely starter in this team. But the rest of the team is pretty nailed, including Calvert-Lewin, who's a big fantasy favorite, of course, up front. They are looking for potential striker options after selling Pirou now to West Ham. They might look for a new attacking option, but they have Nemecha as well, who could play there, but Calvert-Lewin is, of course, preferred up front. Stach and Ampadu preferred in midfield. They also have Tanaka and Longstaff who could play there. Goodmanson is out injured from the start of the season, but they have James Justin ready to step in either of these positions or as like a left centre-back or right centre-back, I should say, if need be. So they have a lot of cover. They have a lot of new players. They've looked really good. I think like the pace that they were on with three at the back last season from like December onwards was like 7th place pace. So Leeds could be a really good team this season, and a lot of people have taken notice because Muharemovic and Calvert-Lewin are pretty popular FPL picks. So yeah, Leeds, very interesting team. Probably looking at a pretty good season in my opinion. Liverpool, not quite as bullish on Liverpool this season because they have some quite clear like issues with their team. Let's just take a look at it. Of course, Alisson, Virgil, like the more senior members of the squad. Szoboszlai, pretty nailed players. Of course, Kirkus seems also pretty nailed now under Andone Iraola. He should be a good player in that system because he knows it already. Ronald Araujo I have as the starter at center back for now with 25 starts. But he could easily also be shifted out to right back. But yeah, they're probably looking for a new right back. Frimpong could play right wing as well. Both wingers and right back is like a sore spot for Liverpool. Gakpo could be sold. Barcola could come in. They have a lot of moving pieces potentially here. But Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, they're going to play a lot of matches. Alexis McAllister could also come into the fray here in midfield. Curtis Jones is leaving for Inter. Florian Wirtz is going to play in the 10, going to get a lot of matches here. 28 matches I have with him. And Rio Ngamoa, I think, is going to have a bit of a breakout here with 24 starts for me so far. They also have Victor Munoz, who was part of the Spain squad that won the World Cup. So he can also play on the wing, but I think Rio Ngamoa is just a better player for now. Isak up front until Ekitike comes back. Then it's going to be a bit more 50-50, but Ekitike is out until like the very end of the season. So yeah, that is Liverpool's lineup. Moving on to Manchester City. They have, of course, a glaring hole in midfield with Rodri leaving for Barcelona. Nico Gonzalez is for now the new centre mid. It could also be Kovacic, but most likely they're going to buy a new centre mid entirely. Manu Kone, who played for France in the World Cup, could be coming in, but it seems like Boadi, Ayoub Boadi, who played for Morocco, impressed in the World Cup. He looks like the most likely signing to come in here to replace Rodri, alongside new signing Anderson as well in midfield. The back line is interesting. I think O'Reilly's going to be pretty nailed. I think Guardiola's going to be pretty nailed. Not quite sure about Ruben Diaz, though, with Gehi also fighting for his place. Gehi could also, of course, play left centre-back, which could push Guardiola to left-back. O'Reilly can play midfield. Like, there's a lot of moving parts here for City. But, yeah, I think O'Reilly's going to get a lot of matches. And I think they're looking pretty good in total, this team. So, yeah. And now I realize my charger is not charging. Now it's working in. Sorry. Yeah. And now it's, like, back down again. My charger is really bad. I'm sorry. I have actually gotten a new PC, so I'm gonna fix this pretty soon. But yeah, this is not good. There we go. That seemed to fix it, hopefully. Anyways, sorry about that. But you're in it for the long haul with this video. This is a long video, and yeah, not gonna take too much more of your time. Anyways, Matheus Nunes could play right back like he did last season, but this could also be Coutinho like we saw in the Community Shield. But Coutinho looked pretty damn bad as well in that position. Of course, Coutinho had a really poor first start as a centre-back for City as well, but he eventually became a really good centre-back for City. But he could be the guy to play here. But for now, Matheus Nunes has been so good last season. I think he's still preferred here, but of course, Enzo Maresca likes to have one of his fullbacks go into the centre-back area and one of his fullbacks to push up. And with Nico O'Reilly as the preferred left back here in the system, could be a worrying sign for Matheus Nunes, who also was hobbled. He was not set to start the Community Shield anyways, but he had an issue in the warm-up, so he wasn't even in the squad in that game. But yeah, Gehi can play in the centre-back roles. They have a lot of options in general. In terms of attack, it's a little more depleted, especially now with Doku out for a couple of weeks after getting injured in the Community Shield. That probably moves Semenyo over to the left, which has been like a discussion lately. Is he actually better on the left than he is on the right? Last season for Man City, he was pretty bad on the right wing, but he's been really good on the right wing in different times before, including for Bournemouth last season. So yeah, could be getting a lift from playing on the left, but we'll see at the start of the season. Haaland, I think, is going to start and do well from the start of the season. I don't really get the panic of him and selling him and all that stuff. I think he's going to punish a lot of people who sell him for the first 2 game weeks. But of course, if you're looking to captain Bruno Fernandes anyway, maybe you might as well just sell Haaland. But I think it's just very risky because Haaland could get a hat-trick in both the first 2 games. I wouldn't be too surprised. Foden, still preferred here. He is named as one of the pillars in the Man City squad, including Haaland and Guardiola, actually, named by Maresca. So I still expect him to start, but Cherki could also, of course, play here. I imagine Cherki plays on the wing to start the season with Semenyo on the left and Semenyo on the left and Cherki on the right. But I'm not quite sure. I think also Coutinho will play game week 1 here, probably. We'll see. Gehi, of course, can play here. Like I've said a couple times, Donnarumma is in goal. No question about that, but City typically like rotate their goalkeeper towards the end of the season sometimes. So yeah, 34 starts for Donnarumma just to be sure. Basically, Aït-Nouri could also play left wing back or left back. if O'Reilly plays in midfield, for example. But yeah, he's just like a potential starter, but not too likely to start. Manchester United, a bit easier to account for. They're also getting Baleba now, so they have a lot of options in midfield all of a sudden. They brought in a lot of players, Andre Santos and Tielemans among them, of course, as new signings. Baleba is looking like the newest one, and of course they have Kobe Mainoo as well, and Mason Mount from before, who can play in these central midfield roles. Bruno Fernandes is going to be the preferred number 10, of course. Kunan and Mbeumo is going to play a lot of matches either on the wings or up front, which is going to be the case from the start of the season, with Šeško still out injured, or a slight doubt at least, fitness doubt for Game Week 1. Typically, that means either Mbeumo goes up front and Amad Diallo goes on the right wing, or Cunha goes up front and Patrick Dorgu goes on the left wing. So they have those options by United to fill in the striker position with these two players. And of course, they also have Xerxes, but it's most likely going to be Mbeumo or Cunha playing up front. In the fence, centre-back position, Maguire seems the most nailed. Lisandro Martinez is going to play quite a lot of matches. De Ligt, when he comes back from injury, could play a lot of matches. And of course, Lenny Euro is another player who could play matches in centre-back. So quite a lot of people to choose from here, but Maguire seems the most safe. The lot also slightly preferred over Mazraoui at right-back. And Shaw is, of course, the only left-back that they have now. But they are looking for a new left-back potentially, so we'll see. Lewis Hall is someone that has been linked with Man United, but yeah, not sure if that's going to happen. But yeah, that is Manchester United. Nothing more to say about them, I think. Looking at the other players, nothing much to say about them. Newcastle, this is an interesting team because they have made a lot of signings, but they've also done a lot of sales, of course. Also, they've changed manager. That is like so many other teams. They have switched from now Eddie Howe to Matthias Geisler, another Matthias who's in the Premier League. That's always nice to see. But they also sold some pretty huge players. They've sold Anthony Gordon at left wing. They've sold both Sandro Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes in midfield. So Joe Linton remains, but he's out injured from the start of the season. Lewis Miley, I think, is going to play a lot of matches. 26 starts I have him with, but that could easily be more. I think he's going to be a good player this season. Right back, we have Dedic, who has come in there. Livramento could play there, of course, but Livramento is also quite injury prone, so I have Dedic slightly ahead. Byrne and Chow still at centre back. Byrne is the captain, so I prefer him over Botman for that reason. Hall could play left back, could also be Livramento at left back at times. And Livramento at right back, he can cover all the places. Lucas Hornacek comes in to be the starting goalkeeper ahead of Nick Pope and ahead of Evan Jawen, who's going to be the backup goalkeeper now, it seems like. Elanga, right wing, is a bit of a sore spot still. Elanga did not really hit the ground running last season, but maybe with a new manager who's more direct, could work out for Elanga, who was pretty good for Nottingham Forest, but that was in a different tactic. Up front, also interesting dichotomy here. Voltemada has been playing a bit more attacking mid, which is where I had him as. They also have Jacob Ramsey, of course, and can play with some other players. Joe Linton can play attacking mid, and they can play Alaji Bamba, who's a new signing. Basumana Touré could play on the wing, maybe with Barnes on right wing. We'll see. They have some options with the new players they have. And up front, Jon Wissa looks better in preseason, looks the most sharp up there, but of course William Osula was really good to end last season. I could definitely start up front, but Wissa for now seems like the better option, and if he keeps playing well, like he did 2 seasons back at Brentford, he could be a really nice option up front, but we'll have to see a couple game weeks before we go into any Newcastle players, because they are a team that might struggle badly. Maybe they do well, maybe some of their new signings, Sean Sturr is another centre mid that they could use. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Newcastle start the season, basically. And I think I mentioned pretty much everyone. Botman could play rather than Byrne, of course, as well in centre-back positions. Now we have Nottingham Forest, also with an interesting team with Glasner now as manager. That bodes well for Nico Williams as the most attacking fullback or wingback out of the pair of him and Aina. He sort of gets the Daniel Munoz role, going up front and getting a lot of shots on target like he did last season. Igor Jesus could also benefit from Glasner coming in. We saw how Mateta turned from an average Premier League striker to an amazing Premier League striker, and the same could happen with Igor Jesus with the tutelage of Glasner, who's had pretty good success as a manager with strikers before. Behind the striker, I have Dan Ndoye and of course Morgan Gibbs-White. Gibbs-White is very secure in the starting lineup. Ndoye not quite as much, but he's going to play a lot of matches. But they could also play Igor Jesus here and play Chris Wood up top. That is another thing they could do. So they have some options there. In midfield, Sangare and their new midfielder, Shaver-Schlager, as I call him. He is the most preferred centre mid. Sangare also going to be there. McAtee can play there as well, of course. Yates is another player they have. They have some options here, but these two are the ones that I've gone with. Centre-back trio is pretty easy with Murillo and Milenkovic still being a good pair here. And then also Diomande, who's come in to be the new right centre-back for Nottingham Forest in this lineup. Mats Sells back in goal for Nottingham Forest after a bit of a turbulent last season. Moving on to Sunderland, only 2 teams to go now. Sunderland have 2 centre-backs in Mukiele and Alderete who are doubts for game week 1. We'll see if they play or not. So maybe O'Neill, who is 4.0 in FPL, didn't get his share of the limelight yet. But we'll see if either one of these players play in game week 1. They're both doubts. Could easily be O'Neill. They could easily change their tactic to have 4 at the back, play Trey Hume at right back, and play Ballard next to O'Neill, and then Reinildo at left back, and then change the tactic that way. They have a lot of options in midfield as well. They have Habib Diarra, who could easily play more matches, but Xhaka and Sadiki are preferred in midfield for now. Enzo Lefebvre going to get a lot of matches. He's on penalties, hoping he doesn't chip the penalties anymore. Brian Brobby up front, he's also a pretty secure starter. And Angulo, who I think is going to be the main starter for the entirety of the season, basically. He has so much potential. He has so many good qualities. So I'm quite excited to see Angulo this season for only 5.0. When it comes to new signings potentially for Sunderland, they are looking at a new left back. They have someone called Dan something, Dayyann. I like his first name, but he is apparently not going to Sunderland anymore because of the medical, some issues with the medical. But yeah, they're looking for a new left back, so Reinildo might be a bit difficult to choose. But there's so many good centre backs and defenders to choose. Trey Hume plays most matches for Reggie Libri, whether that's at right wing, which he's done at some points in preseason, right wing back or right back. He can fit in, or even left back and left wing back. He can fit in all over the place. And that's why the manager loves him, basically. So, yeah, he's a pretty secure starter for 4.5 as well. So, plenty of options for Sunderland players. Chemstin Talby, would be remiss to not mention him. Could play here rather than Angulo with the system. They also have Chris Rigg, who's a 19-year-old player who looks really, really good and promising. He could also force his way into one of these positions here, probably this position with Angulo, who's another, of course, really promising young guy. So, yeah. That is Sunderland. They've only made one transfer in, or one notable transfer in, and that is Thomas Meunier, who I didn't even mention. Look at that. He could play right wing back, he could play right back, but Trey Hume is preferred, I guess. But yeah, like I said, Hume can play all over the pitch, and Sunderland also are playing in Europe, so they need as much experience from Europe that they can get. So Meunier, of course, could play there. Rigg, another potential starter, who I mentioned. Finally, the last team of this video is going to be Tottenham Hotspur, basically. To end this video before the hour mark would be nice. Spurs, they have, as always, a lot of injury issues. Kudus has kept his injury issues from last season. Madison has been slow to get back into preseason. I think he finally was involved now at the end. Solanke is going to miss the start of the season. Richarlison is going to start up front. That's going to be an interesting 6.0 forward, I think, from the start of the season if you want to go there. But Spurs are also looking to replace almost all of these players. They're looking to bring in Gakpo at left wing, potentially. They're looking to bring in Savinho at right wing, and they're also looking to bring in Marmoush in either the attacking mid or center forward position. So they're looking to strengthen up here in attack because they have some issues with injuries, and Tell has also not been too good in Spurs, but he's shown some really promising signs. So I actually like Tell quite a lot. I think he could easily outplay his 23 starts and get much higher than that, but with Gakpo rumored in, it's a bit more of a risk, basically. Centre mids, Tonali and Mateus Fernandes both came from for big money from other former Premier League clubs in West Ham's case, and current Premier League club, maybe soon to be not Premier League club in Tonali's case from Newcastle. They are a really good pair in midfield. I think they suit each other well. They're both experienced in the Premier League. Fernandes is experienced in going down, so we'll see if he does that again. Fingers crossed. But yeah, those two guys are really good. Centre backs, they also brought in Van Hecke, who's a more he has more experience in the Premier League than Vuskovic, who went the other way to Brighton. So Van Hecke is interesting as well in center as a centre back. Van de Ven, of course, always a doubt, including now. He might even be injured for the first game week, but they have Senesi to play here, which is a really nice cover. They also have Kevin Danso, of course, who can play as a centre back. So they have some nice options just in case. Pedro Porro, right back. in the system. And Udogie for now, he is like, could downgrade this to like a doubt, I think. He's back in training at least, but I think still Andrew Robertson's going to start the season at left back, of course, with Jed Spence gone to the Serie A, basically, to Inter. Kinski in goal. Vicario has been loaned out to Juventus, so Kinski is going to be the starting goalkeeper with Dubravka as the backup for Spurs. Madison, we'll see how many games he gets, but they have a lot of options in midfield, as you can see here from the other potential starters. If you look at the guide, Gallagher can play in midfield. Kulusevski, if he comes back, he could play right wing. Barrigwell can play in midfield. They also have Bentancur, who I haven't mentioned here. He should probably get a mention. So they have a lot of options that can play in the central positions as well, of course. But yeah, Spurs struggled with a lot of injuries last season. As you can see in the last season 11 nailed onness, they didn't really have a set starting 11 much of last season because they had so many injuries, which seems to carry over this season with some more issues here. But yeah, looking to sign a lot of new players. They have been spending a lot of money this summer and looking to spend even more on new attacking players. So we'll see what Spurs do, basically. So yeah, that is every single starting lineup in the Premier League within almost an hour, basically, recorded at like 1 a.m. at night. So if you liked the video, including my issues with my charger, please like the video and comment down below if you have any comments about anything about the video in general. Comment if you want to see more of the FPL guide, of course, or if you like what you see, or if there's anything else in the guide that you want updated or that you don't agree with, for example. Let me know. Always happy to get feedback. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to get back to updating the guide. I'm also going to try to upload another 2 videos. I should have led with this at the start of the video, but I'll end it here for my most loyal listeners who've listened all the way through. I'm sorry for not creating more videos this summer. I was a bit more busy than I expected to be, but I'm very much ready to start the season on a high and do really, really well in FPL and make a lot of content for you guys as well as the season goes along. It's going to be a really interesting first few game weeks. I'm going to be pretty on it when it comes to wildcarding in Game Week 4, and I'm going to advocate for free hitting in Game Week 7 and having that in mind when you're wildcarding in Game Week 4. So I'm going to have a lot of interesting content once the season starts. But for the rest of the preseason, I have this video, of course, now with the starting lineups. I have also promised to do my favorite players at every price point, and I'm also going to do, of course, my starting lineup, my team selection video, of course, as well for the Friday deadline. So 3 videos, going to be a double upload here on Thursday and a single upload on Friday. And then I'm going to go travel to London to watch some games myself. I'm going to go to Fulham against Chelsea to watch that last match of Game Week 1. So pretty excited for that, and Joao Pedro up front for me against Fulham. So yeah, that is the update with me and my life. I guess you won't get every life update, but you'll get the ones that affects FPL, basically. Yeah, and with that, I'm just going to end it there. I hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making it, of course. And I also took a long time going through all these starting lineups. I've made a lot of changes throughout preseason. It is quite a lot of work, but I'm quite happy with the guide this season. I've also gotten some help from ChatGPT to help like make it even better, like the coding and stuff. Like, it's been a godsend to have AI help me out with that. But the written parts of this is basically me and Kevin, who with the new player reviews, my co-host on the FPL Scope podcast, which of course is going to come out finally after such a long time next week. I was going to do it this week, but again, it's been delayed. Like, I'm sorry. I should really start to like not promise too much, because yeah, it goes the wrong way. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.